What's up, everyone? This is the Next Day Podcast, episode 204 with Mikel and
Tanyka.
we have conversations on different topics. So on today's episode, we are going to be doing our special Pride Month episode.
Mm-hmm.
Tanyka, do you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
as we talked about last week, we're doing, as we normally do, a series. The only thing different with this year versus last year is we're going to be dedicating all episodes to Pride Month. Um, Except for, like we said, our bonus episode and the screen take episode will be regular format. So that's what we're doing. So the first episode that we're going to be doing, keeping it kind of light on the lighter side, is we're going to be talking about celebrity activists when it came to the AIDS epidemic and kind of what their impact in the LG. Ugh, usually I get this. the um the community. There we go, because I'm blanking right now. So
Yes.
that's kind of what we're going to be talking about.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So let's jump in. So, in the 3 decades of the HIV epidemic, which is insane that it lasted as long as 3 decades, with no change, but many celebrities, should say, have lent their talents and support to help raise awareness and to help those who have or had the virus. But there are a few people who will forever stand out as the icons of HIV activism. Through their passion, commitment, and support, these people have used their star power to impact the lives of millions living with HIV and will forever be remembered for their efforts to fight AIDS, and
Uh,
as well as the stigma around AIDS
uh,
and HIV. Um, so the first one,
yeah.
I think this is no shocker to anyone that's a part of the community or anyone who just has eyes. Madonna.
Mm,
So the material girl, as we know her, was
mm,
anything but that when she first lent her support to HIV patients in a time when most people treated a person with AIDS like a pariah. Like literally, you would get told, don't touch them, don't hug them. You can get it from them like that, which that's not how this disease works.
right.
Um, so that's truly how people were being treated. Madonna's dance teacher was HIV positive, and when he publicly divulged that he had the virus, the two appeared together at a 1989 dance-a-thon to support AIDS Project LA. Her support early on during the height of the HIV epidemic even led people to believe Madonna was HIV positive herself, which is like, again, that stigma of like, oh, well, if you're, you know, around people who have HIV or you're touching them, it's that just kind of again goes this just adds to the stigma of it all, which is absolutely ridiculous. Um, the rumors didn't stop her then, and they certainly aren't stopping her now, as she works
Mm,
with her organization Raising Malawi and continues to advocate for those who live with HIV in Africa and around the world. Um, Dame Elizabeth Taylor, who is no longer with us now, but Dame Elizabeth Taylor is a cinematic legend, but when the film Phenom began her humanitarian work in the fight against HIV and AIDS in the 1980s, she became a global icon of activism. When Taylor was asked why she became involved so early on, this is what she had to say, quote, I kept seeing all these news reports on this new disease and kept asking myself why no one was doing anything. And then I realized that I was just like them. I wasn't doing anything to help. In 1985, Elizabeth Taylor joined with a group of doctors and scientists to form the American Foundation for AIDS Research, or what is now commonly known as I think it's Amfar. Yeah,
Mm.
it's Amfar. Um, Today she is remembered as much for the magnanimous impact she had
Uh-huh.
on so many lives through her activism as she is for burning up the screen with her beauty and talent. Bono, that was a shocker to me. I did not know this. So if you don't know who Bono is, he's in U2. So the U2 frontman and rock legend founded the Red Foundation in 2006 with Bobby Shriver to engage millions of people from around the world in the fight against HIV and AIDS in Africa,
Uh-huh.
home to an estimated two-thirds of the world's HIV positive population. Which, yes. Bono used his global appeal to tap into the private sector by working with major brands to create a steady flow of corporate giving into the global fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria.
Huh.
Since its foundation's inception, it has generated over $300 million for the Global Fund, which goes directly to finance HIV and AIDS programs in Africa.
Uh,
Alicia Keys. So Alicia Keys has stood up against HIV and AIDS through her organization Keep a Child Alive, which promotes prevention and treatment in Africa.
right.
When the R&B songstress teamed up with the Empowered Project, she became the new voice of HIV awareness for women in the US. Quote, talking about HIV/AIDS, it's critical and it is our generation's issue. And if we don't talk about it now, it's going to continue, she told
Mm.
ABC News. We tend to have a good international dialogue, like a good, healthy dialogue, but we're not really discussing it in America. We have to learn as much as we can, and we have to share with as many people we can.
Right.
Rihanna. So even though Rihanna is new to the world of HIV activism, we
Mm.
have the article says that there's a feeling that she's going to bring the same passion and strength in her music to the fight against AIDS. Um, so she has partnered with MAC Cosmetics, which I did know this.
Mm.
But what I didn't know was that it was to raise awareness and educate people about the virus. She also walked the red carpet for a new documentary called It's Not Over, which I'm not sure when this came out, so I'm not sure, but which is about three young people who are affected by HIV. So
Uh-huh.
she said, quote, I'm very close with my fans, and when Mac approached me about this, I got a whole lot of information and a lot of heartbreaking real statistics that I didn't know.
Uh-huh.
And this is what she told HIV Plus magazine. They were very shocking for me, and it's something that I felt was important for me to get the word out, to spread the word to educate young people and educate my fans on a matter that's really killing us and killing the youth.
Right.
As much as I hate, don't hate, but
Uh-huh.
not great of a person that I'm about to mention next, we're just going to talk about him in this context and leave it at that. So, President Bill Clinton,
Uh-huh.
although it may not have been his main priority while in office, President Clinton has spent much time post presidency fighting the AIDS epidemic in Africa and around the world. He has shown almost a singular focus on raising awareness and delivering aid through the Clinton Global Initiative and has taken multiple trips to a number of countries across Africa, working to post nurses in rural clinics in various countries, deliver medicines to people who need them, and send experts to train hospital workers throughout the continent. I love this, by the way. Next person I'm about to talk about, Annie Lennox. You probably
Huh.
don't know who Annie Lennox is, do you?
No, I don't.
That's okay. We're not gonna go into it. She's
Yeah.
she's very popular singer, but so it's okay. Um, Annie Lennox brings passion and tenacity to everything she does, and her work in HIV activism is no different. The local powerhouse has championed many causes and is a celebrated social activist who has worked tirelessly to give a voice to women and children living with HIV in Africa and throughout the world. The UN ambassador launched the SING campaign, which works to raise support for HIV positive women and children in Southern Africa. She also recruited 23 prominent female vocalists to contribute to the song Sing, which raised money and awareness for the HIV and AIDS organization
Huh.
Treatment Action Campaign.
Huh.
Sir Elton John. Think that's fitting. So Sir Elton John has always been outspoken, which is why he wasn't afraid to fight HIV and AIDS in a time when many celebrities were afraid to be attached to the disease. In
Huh.
1992, he founded the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which supports HIV prevention, education, and supports people living with HIV. John was inspired to start the organization by his young friend, Ryan White, who, if we haven't talked about him yet, we will be talking about him in the future. I just can't remember if we did that episode or not. But we will be talking about him in a future episode if I haven't already. Um, who did die of AIDS complications in 1990 after being infected with HIV through a blood transfusion. Today, the organization is as strong as ever and has raised over $321 million in over 55 countries to date.
Huh.
Joan Rivers, may she rest in power. Joan Rivers was many things: a comedic legend, a feminist trailblazer, an uproarious fashion critic, and an unconventional but devoted mother and grandmother. But with all the zings, slings, and punchlines that made up the persona of Joan Rivers, she was also a relentless HIV activist with a lion's heart. Rivers began her advocacy work decades ago when she first started volunteering with God's Love We Deliver, which was a nonprofit organization delivering food to HIV and AIDS patients in New York City. In 2009, when she won Celebrity Apprentice, which I did not remember she won Celebrity Apprentice, but
Huh.
she was a Celebrity Apprentice, she gave all her earnings from the show to the organization. Oh, I love that.
Huh.
Her prize money bought 56,000 meals, and you know that probably pissed Trump off too, and he'll love it.
Huh.
Moving on, Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus may have shocked the nation with some of her more wild musical endeavors, but the former Disney star is quickly proving herself as an intelligent, talented, and purposeful individual with a drive for social change. When the Wrecking Ball singer showed up to the 2014 Amfar LA Inspiration Gala, her barely there dress got people's attention. But it was her
Mm.
$500,000 check to fight AIDS that left them in shock. Quote, "It's so important for me, of all people, to represent because I have a voice and I want to start an open dialogue about prevention," she told Verity. "Obviously, I'm not too embarrassed to talk about these things, especially with young people." So that's kind of where we leave it with kind of some of the celebrities. We're kind of going into another article now. I don't know where this article is going to take me because I did these notes a while
Right.
ago. So let's see where
Okay.
this one takes us. So,
Right. That should be fine. Go
so
ahead.
for as long as we've known about HIV/AIDS, people have had to handle the reality of coming out as living with HIV. Disclosing your HIV status to family and friends is often difficult. Oh, so I think what I'm doing here is talking about celebrities that are living with HIV
Mm.
that have come out and talked about it. Okay.
Right.
That's what I think. That's what I'm thinking and how about I read it. So, okay, yeah, so disclosing your HIV status to family and friends is often a difficult one, which I can only imagine. And when you're in the public eye, coming out as living with HIV adds a major decision about whether you want the whole world to know.
Mm.
Many celebrities have chosen to share that part of themselves with the public. Often, that choice helps the rest of us. By coming out, they can humanize the virus for many people who don't otherwise know anybody who's living with HIV. They can help increase awareness and fight the stigma. So let's get into some of those people,
Right.
celebrities that we know and probably love that live with HIV or AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Porter is one. So
Huh.
Billy Porter's Emmy award-winning performance as Pray Tell in the groundbreaking television series Pose, which I know is now done, may have made him a household name, but Porter has been a star in his entire career. That's what makes his May 2021 disclosure in The Hollywood Reporter that he's been living with HIV since 2007 so compelling. Instead of resting on his laurels, Porter used his interview to let the world know, quote, "I'm so much more than that diagnosis. And if you don't want to work with me because of my status, you're not worthy of me.
Right.
Yes, queen. Um, with those words, Porter confronted his trauma about having been previously rejected by Broadway and the music industry for demanding that he be celebrated as a Black queer man and
Mhm.
took a stand not only for himself, but for the entire community of people who are living with HIV. Just as importantly, by acknowledging that his decision to disclose didn't happen overnight, he has taught readers everywhere that confronting one's trauma is the key to personal liberation. Stigma and homophobia may still exist, and it definitely does. But with Billy Porter stepping up as the culture's newest guiding star, it's clear that nothing can stand in our way.
Mhm.
Jonathan Van Ness. Now, I don't know much about him. I know the name, but he is, from what I understand, in Queer Eye. So, for those who know who he is, and I don't know, sorry. Um, but Jonathan Van Ness is the breakout star of Netflix's Queer Eye reboot. So it's Queer Eye for the straight guy, but it's like the reboot version. As
Never
the
heard of it.
new,
No.
hmm?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh,
Go
did you have
ahead.
something you want to
Yeah,
say?
never heard of him. Yeah. Go ahead.
You never heard? Yeah, no. I think I know the face, but I don't. I've never watched Queer Eye, so
Right.
yeah. Um.
I heard about Queer Eye, but I just never
Oh
heard
yeah,
of
it's been
the
around for
person. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
years and years and years.
Yeah.
But they have a Netflix reboot of it. I'm not sure if it's actually still an active series now because I know there was some drama. But they did reboot it on Netflix, whether it's
Mm.
still ongoing or it was a short period of time. Because, like I said, there was drama. I did hear about that.
Right.
So, but as the new Fab Five gained prominence and a place in pop culture, Van Ness
Mhm.
came out about living with HIV in a September 2019 profile in the New York Times ahead of the release of his memoir, Over the Top. In the profile, Van Ness also spoke about his own past experience of sexual assault and his drug addiction, as well as his compounding traumas. Quote, when Queer Eye came out, it was really difficult because I was like, do I want to talk about my status? This is what he told the Times. And then I was like, the Trump administration has done everything they can do to have stigmatization of the LGBT community thrive around me. I do feel the need to talk about this. And that's unfortunately where we have to be. The fact that like the
Right.
community is being pushed into the shadows yet again when so much work had been done by
Mhm.
previous administrations. But anyways.
Mhm.
Now this person that we're gonna well, I don't know how to label this person now because for those people who watched this documentary that came out on
Mhm.
Netflix,
Mhm.
it does seem they're kind of somewhere in the middle. So I don't want to say they're not queer, but I just don't know how he would label himself.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about Charlie Sheen. So
Mhm.
initially, when he did come out with his HIV diagnosis, we didn't know all the ins and outs. I would
Mhm.
have considered him a straight man with HIV. But I don't know where he stands with his sexuality, and that's all I'm saying. So I'm not gonna
Right.
talk about his
Yeah.
sexuality
Yeah.
because I know we are talking about Pride Month and everything, so I just wanna be
Mhm.
sure that
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not stepping over any lines here. But
Yep.
anyways, Charlie Sheen is known as much for his off-screen antics as he is for his on-screen comedy chops. When he came out as living with HIV in November 2015, he was about 4 years out from leaving one of CBS's most successful sitcoms, Two and a Half Men.
Uh.
Loved that show.
Uh-huh.
Where he was replaced by Ashton Kutcher, then it went
Uh-huh.
downhill.
Mhm.
Sheen is also known as the youngest member of the Sheen acting family, which includes Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez, which
Uh.
is actually his last name is actually Estevez, but we won't get into
Right.
it. He was known as something of a Hollywood bad boy and talked openly about drug use, a lot of sex, and sex with sex workers.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now, most recently, sex with, I don't know if they're sex workers, but sex with same sex partners as well. But, anyways.
Hmm.
Sheen was forced to come out while the National Enquirer was preparing a story that would have outed his HIV status, which is disgusting, by the way. Shame on
mm,
you. Proven that HIV stigma still negatively affects people living with HIV today. When he did come out, Sheen shared that he was on antiretroviral medication. Sorry, I know I butchered that. And that he was undetectable. So basically, there is medication out there, in case no one knows this. There is medication out there. From what I understand, it is referred to as PrEP. That's the short form name of it, which basically will make you undetectable. So you're safe to
mm,
do as you want without necessarily spreading it to somebody else. Um, So one study estimated that Charlie Sheen's disclosure was a more effective HIV awareness campaign than any that a city health department could cook up. In the 24 hours following his disclosure, Sheen's announcement, point number one, prompted the
mhm,
highest number of HIV-related searches ever seen on Google to that point, which was 2.75 billion more than any other day.
mm,
Point two, HIV searches went up 471% that day. Point three, of those searches, 1.25 million included words like condoms, HIV testing, and HIV symptoms.
mm,
So, what this is kind of telling me by these searches is people are, I think, like back then when he
mhm,
came out
mhm,
with his HIV diagnosis, it definitely, I already knew as a straight cis woman that straight people can get HIV as well. This is not a gay disease. Um, but I
yeah,
wonder
yeah,
again if there are people out there who still had that stigmatization that, oh, HIV, AIDS, it's a gay disease,
yeah,
which,
yeah, no, there's people out there that
yeah,
still think that to this day that it does happen because of gay people, and it
mm,
happens from prisons as well. So, like,
right.
basically,
Well,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that lends to the
yeah,
stigma of, oh, it's a gay disease.
yeah, yeah,
Um, And I think like someone like Charlie Sheen coming out at that time, despite what we kind of now know with his documentary that came out, I think was this year, right? Um, where he talks about his sexual endeavors to some extent. Back then, we pictured him as a straight man. So a straight man coming out with HIV at this time when this was something that we just didn't see. We just never seen that before, I
mhm,
guess, despite
mhm,
what we know of this disease. And I think it really maybe helped people educate themselves on the fact of, oh my God, here's this straight man who's having quote unquote straight sex and still getting it. Well, of
mm,
course, because like I don't know about anyone else, but I know for me, I have definitely been tested for BBIs, bloodborne infections, which HIV AIDS is considered a BBI. That's just something that I've done. It's something that I do probably on a regular basis now doing fertility treatments because me having sex with my partner, I
mhm,
would like to think that he is, loyal to me, but God forbid he's not and he's being with someone else who's also a woman. I
mhm,
could get it. He could
mhm,
get it.
mhm,
It doesn't This is not a gay disease. Anyone, unfortunately, can get this. So I
mm,
think Charlie Sheen coming out as much as maybe he didn't want to, and I can understand why he maybe just didn't want to talk about it.
mhm, mhm,
Um, not so much because of the stigma around it, but because Charlie Sheen had his own stigma that had nothing to do with that. Um, and but I think it really did help people educate themselves. So I, I got to give him something with coming out when he did, because he came out at a time when his life was falling apart, you know? But, anyways, searches stayed relatively high for about 72 hours
mhm,
after the announcement.
mhm,
Next person. This is another person who is straight, as far as we know,
right,
who's
mm,
lived with this disease for, again, many, many years. That's Magic Johnson.
right,
So
yeah,
it would be hard to talk about celebrities living with HIV and not bring up Magic Johnson.
mhm,
When Johnson, one of basketball's greatest players, came out as living with HIV in 1991.
Mhm.
Imagine a time of this man, probably in
Yeah,
the height of his career,
yeah.
coming out with HIV in
Yeah, yep.
1991.
I remember seeing the documentary. He was playing in the All-Star game,
Mhm.
and a lot of the players were scared that, basically if
See what I
they're
mean?
sweating or,
Yeah. Oh my
y
God, him sweating, you're gonna
yeah,
get it. No, that's not how,
yes,
again, the disease
yes.
works.
Or yeah, or blood. Any type of blood,
Yeah.
you'll
Well,
get it.
yeah, yeah. Blood 'cause I remember watching a show, it's called The Game, for those people who know,
Mhm.
and it was one episode, I can't remember exactly who she was. I think she was friends with Melanie or friends with somebody else, but she was I think it was The Game. If it wasn't The Game, it was Girlfriends. It was one of those 2.
Uh-huh.
But, either way, it was a woman who had contracted and again, this kinda adds to the stigma of the disease, which I hate that aspect of it, but it also still brought awareness to some extent as well.
Mhm.
So this woman, she had, been diagnosed with AIDS,
Yeah.
and she got it from her husband,
Mhm.
who was on the down low, so he was, having sex with men, and that's how
Mhm.
she contracted it. Now, that can happen.
Right.
But that just kind of adds to the stigma, unfortunately, but nonetheless, it did because again, you as a woman, especially at that time,
Mm.
because this was probably about 15 or so years ago that I watched this episode,
Mhm.
and I remember thinking or maybe even more, Jesus Lord, might even been like 20. But anyways, I remember thinking, I didn't think women could get HIV at a time where I wasn't fully educated on the disease myself. And I'm
Right.
just like, I didn't realize that that can happen, and that episode really opened my eyes of, "Oh,
Mhm.
so anyone can get this disease. This
Mm.
isn't
Yeah, no,
just
yeah.
gay men getting this disease."
Yeah, no, anybody can get this, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that really, I think although that adds to the episode added to the stigma of things,
Mhm.
it still opened my eyes to be like, "Oh, maybe I need to do my research on it." Because again, even with that episode, they were afraid to touch the same utensils that she was touching
Mhm.
to, if she was bleeding at one
Yeah.
point, and they were afraid to help her, and it's like,
Yep.
that's just not how
Mhm.
it works. Now,
But
mind you,
yeah.
I am curious, like, if I think this can happen, and maybe it's
Mhm.
minimal chance of this happening, but maybe there's a chance that if you have an open wound and then they have an open
Yeah.
wound, then maybe yes, because 'cause you're potentially exchanging bodily fluids, if
Yeah,
that's how it
yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, the players were afraid if they, like, if they, like, scratch him, etcetera, like, usually when it
If
comes to
you're scratching
contact
them
with
under your
basketball.
nail or something, you're not
Yeah,
gonna get it.
yeah, most likely if a player usually fouls and gets in contact with a player, because sometimes basketball players can be aggressive with
Oh, yeah.
playing with against each other
Yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of fouling
No,
each
I get
other.
it.
So if they open up a wound on
Magic
Magic
Johnson, yeah,
Johnson,
or they even
it's
potentially have a
yeah,
wound that they don't know
yeah,
about. So
yeah.
in that
So
sense, I get it, because you
yeah,
just don't wanna get it, but I think it's my issue, especially back then, was just the grossness of, like, "Oh, I can't even hug you. I
yeah,
can't hug you.
uh,
I can't give you a peck on the lips or something if
yeah.
you're, like, your family or friends or something because you have this disease," and it's like, I can't imagine
I mean,
how
r-
lonely some of these men felt. Some of these men died by on their own because
mhm.
there was no one there to advocate for them or be there for them or just hold their hand while they're taking their last breath.
Oh,
And
yeah, we
it's
were at it. Okay.
that part for me that I have such a hard time
I think at the time in the 90s,
in the
we were
80s.
lacking a lot of information and,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, so
100%
we
we were
didn't
lacking
know, yeah,
information.
yeah, 'cause, yeah. We didn't have
Yeah.
internet or we didn't have any,
But
like
it's not about that.
yeah,
This goes far beyond not having the resources to do the
yeah,
research.
yep,
This was absolute avoidance of doing the
mhm,
research. When you
yep,
have your president at that time, which was, I believe, Reagan,
mhm,
during the bulk of the epidemic, who refused to say the word AIDS,
mhm,
that doesn't help things. So
mhm,
this is why it was so important to have these celebrity activists um come out and put the awareness out there. Princess Diana, which I'm not sure if I'll talk about her here, but she was one of those people too who would go and visit AIDS patients and showed the world's princess, showing the world it is okay to hug them. You're not going to get it.
mm,
And that's where things were going to change. Was thank God for those people who put it out there and said, you're going to be fine if you hug them, if
right,
you love on them. You're not going to get it. Like that's what I mean when you had, you know, it or
mhm,
like television shows like Golden Girls. Like I
mhm,
understand
mhm,
like how pivotal that show was for people of this community because they were so ahead of their time with that show,
mhm,
talking about these topics that
mhm,
no other show before it, or maybe even after it, for the longest time, would not have these conversations.
yep,
So that's where the research and just the awareness came in.
mhm,
It was because of those people.
right, yep,
So,
right. I certainly
but
agree. Encyclopedias as well, like, at the
well,
time,
I mean,
so
I don't know how much research was in those hype like about this
yeah,
at the time. I'm not sure what was out there,
mhm, mhm,
but I do understand that medical research had to catch up, just like anything
mhm,
else.
mhm,
Um, but again, it's just why is it this disease where you're basically saying this is a quote unquote gay disease at the time.
mhm,
Why is it this disease that you're refusing to even touch a person, to, give them any form of human touch? If
mhm,
it's any other disease, like cancer or something, something like that,
mm,
we're not afraid to touch them because it's not just gay people who get it, it's everyone that gets it, just like we now know with AIDS that's the case. But
right,
back then I'm talking, so it's like, why is this okay to be like, "Oh, it's fine, I can touch this person," versus somebody else?
mhm,
Now, I understand
mhm,
it's different, you can't catch cancer from somebody else.
mhm, mhm,
Obviously, with exchange of bodily fluids, yes, you are, exchanging HIV, AIDS among each other. However, that's the only way you can do it,
mhm,
and that can happen with, like I just said earlier, to everybody.
mm,
But back to Magic Johnson for a
mhm,
second.
mhm, mhm,
So yes, he came out in 1991. It was a watershed moment in HIV awareness. He was a strong, physically able athlete coming out at a time before we had effective HIV medications. When the most common depiction of a person with HIV was a person dying with HIV.
right,
Um, and I don't know if because I always wondered, I'm like, how did he get it? But I
mhm,
guess the other thing with HIV is you can get HIV with needles.
mhm.
I don't know I'm not saying that he was doing drugs, but I mean,
Well,
I mean,
there's been reports that he was cheating on his wife and having a lot of
okay. So then
sexual
he
activity
could have,
during
I
his
guess, got
time.
it
Yeah,
sexually
yeah,
transmitted.
I think it was rumors or something like that. He had
Mm.
sexual relations with somebody in the uh, like the head office and
But still, like a woman, which
yeah,
again
well, yeah,
counteracts that whole
yeah,
thing of, oh, it's a gay disease.
yeah.
Um,
Front
yeah,
office, sorry, front office of the team. Yeah, sorry.
which is
Yeah.
Again, like we talk about Magic Johnson having HIV, which like obviously like he's a celebrity here,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, well, clearly she did as well. And what a way,
Mm,
what a way to find out. But
mm. Yep.
since his diagnosis, he continues to thrive, which has led some people to believe that he is cured, which that is not how it works. But in his appearances, he continues to educate people and remind them that he's not cured. He's simply on effective medications. Quote, I do have it, and I've had it for 22 years. It's just laying asleep in my body. The drugs have done their part, and I've done my part by exercising and having a positive attitude about having HIV. And this is what he explained while appearing on Sirius XM Radio's Hip Hop Nation in 2014. Rock Hudson. Now, I don't know much about Rock Hudson. I do know he's an actor or was an actor. He's passed on now, but Rock Hudson is next.
Mm,
So Rock Hudson was the epitome of 1950s straight, male, macho movie stars. His AIDS diagnosis and AIDS-related death in 1985 came as a shock to many. Before he came out, because he did come out, he publicly, his publicity team said that he had liver cancer. Hudson came forward in July 1985 and was, at the time, the first major celebrity to say that he was living with AIDS. Hudson died a few months later in October 1985 at age 59. For many, seeing Hudson gaunt was a far cry from the buff, matey idol he had been barely a decade prior. In the wake of his
mm,
death, his giant co-star Elizabeth Taylor, who we talked about earlier, became a well-known AIDS activist, as we said, and led the fight within Hollywood to raise money for research. Mickey Blanco, which I don't know who this is,
huh,
but he seems to be a recent dude. In June 2015, then 29-year-old genderqueer rapper Mickey Blanco revealed on their Facebook page that they had been living with HIV since 2011, or as they put it, my entire career. Quote,
mm,
stigma and hiding in the dark, their initial post said. Normal living a lie, they added in the post's comment section. Since coming out, Blanco has called out some national AIDS organizations for typecasting stars who are living with HIV. In February 2018, Blanco tweeted, quote, it would be awesome if you would book me to perform at one of your galas like you do so many HIV negative pop stars instead of continually using me as a token. Blanco was referring to AMFAR, who had used Blanco to highlight its own actions around National Black HIV/AIDS awareness, but it invited HIV negative bisexual singer Halsey to perform at its gala, which, listen, love Halsey. And she is part of the community, but definitely hear what they're saying. That, like, why not? Why not me? But all right. Freddie Mercury, front runner of Queen. If you don't know, Freddie Mercury was a bisexual sex icon and the frontman for Queen, one of the best-selling rock bands of all time, and the masters behind iconic stadium rock songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, We Will Rock You, some of my favorites. Mercury tested positive in 1987 and died of AIDS-related pneumonia 4 years later, only one day after he shared his HIV positive status with the world. If you've seen the film Bohemian Rhapsody, I did, then you know that the movie played a little fast and loose with the facts around his diagnosis. 100% it did, which I actually disliked. That was one of the many controversies surrounding the film. It fudged the timeline to make Freddie Mercury seem to apologize for acquiring HIV and being reckless, which he wasn't being reckless. Like, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing, but they made it seem like he fell in love with somebody and was in a relationship with him. And
mhm.
I don't know what he was doing outside of that, but, you know, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
In
Mm,
reality, that's not what happened. The film raised a lot of ethical issues about how to portray people living with HIV after their death. Bohemian Rhapsody was also the second film in recent years to feature an HIV negative actor who went on to win an Academy Award for portraying someone living with HIV. Now, listen, I love Rami Malek, though. I love him so much,
Right.
who plays Freddie Mercury in the movie.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
then again, I also understand what they're saying here by saying, having Rami Malek play him, who is not living with HIV. Um, I definitely understand that.
mm,
But I love him. And I
mhm,
thought he did really well, but I get it. I do. Okay, moving on. Um, it happened twice in 2014. Ooh, yeah, when both Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto won Oscars for their performances in Dallas Buyers Club, which I have not seen that movie, but I heard it was
mhm,
really good. The latter for playing a transgender woman living with HIV, so that would have been Jared Leto who was playing a transgender woman.
mhm,
Um, I don't know if I'm saying this person's name right. Gia Karangi, I think
mhm,
is how you say it.
mhm,
So, Gia Karangi was one of the first world-recognized supermodels. She was one of the fashion world's most sought-out modeling talents and appeared on the cover of Vogue and Cosmopolitan. However, her career was cut short when she died in 1986 after struggling with a heroin addiction. Karangi is known for paving the way for some of the biggest names in fashion modeling who appeared in the early 1990s, including Naomi Campbell and Cindy Crawford. Her interesting. Her death was largely kept quiet, which is very interesting.
mm,
Despite her enormous fame, her funeral service was held in a small, modest venue and not widely publicized. Angelina Jolie eventually portrayed Carnegie, yeah, I think it was Carnegie, in the
right.
HBO biopic Gia,
Mm.
which I did not hear about before. But next person, Keith Haring. So don't know who this is, but let's go
Keith,
through it. Keith
Keith,
Haring.
okay.
Hmm?
Keith Haring.
Haring or Haring?
Oh, okay.
One
Yeah.
of the two. While you may not, okay, so apparently we're not supposed to know who he is. While you
Yeah.
may not know what Keith Haring or Haring looked like, or even who he was, there's a great chance that you've encountered his art. The HIV positive artist who died in 1990 after being diagnosed with AIDS in 1988 is behind some of the most recognizable symbols in commercial art. His graffiti dancing figures have been featured on everything from Adidas apparel to clothes of, I think I'm probably gonna say it wrong, Uniqlo, Uniqlo, which I know is truly gender neutral clothing, but I've never shopped in there. Um, Haring was always very open about his HIV diagnosis. He spent the last years of his life raising awareness and starting the Keith Haring or Haring Foundation, which to this day supports organizations that work in HIV/AIDS prevention and education.
Mm,
Another celebrity,
mhm,
Eazy-E. So rap legend and co-founder of the group NWA,
mm,
along with Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. Eazy-E came out in 1995 as having been diagnosed with AIDS.
mm,
The NWA album Straight Outta Compton went double platinum in 1988 and
right.
is one of the most influential albums in rap history. Eazy-E died only 1 month after his AIDS diagnosis at age 31, which is insanity.
Yeah. Did he die because I can't remember like the movie I watched Straight Outta Compton back in the day. I
I
don't
watched
remember
Straight
it.
Outta Compton so long ago, but I vaguely remember seeing him in, like, a hospital bed,
Mhm.
so I feel like it was the AIDS that killed him. Like, it
Mhm.
wasn't something else, or anything related to, like, any disease or, like, because like we said with, who was it that we said that died with due
Mm,
to it was Freddie Mercury who died,
mhm.
due to AIDS-related pneumonia.
Yeah. He
So
died.
something
Yeah. He died.
along those lines.
Yeah, yeah. He did that. He did too.
Yeah.
AIDS and yeah, pneumonia. Yeah.
It's a complication, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, his diagnosis and death were depicted in the Academy Award nominated film Straight Outta
Mhm.
Compton, which was
Mhm.
released in 2015.
Mhm.
In the film, Eazy-E was played by Jason Mitchell. The film depicts the three members of NWA about to reunite at the time of his death. There were long-standing rumors that Eazy-E was deliberately infected with HIV using an acupuncture needle, which is scary as hell, making me rethink doing any type of acupuncture in the future, which is part of a long-standing harmful myth that HIV is frequently weaponized. But those rumors are untrue, which is good to know. It can happen, mind you, because we talked about HIV, but he had full-blown AIDS, so I'm not sure if that works the same way. Obviously, HIV can turn to AIDS, but I'm not
Mhm.
sure how that works. Maybe just get I don't think you can just get AIDS from a needle.
Mhm.
Um, so Eazy is often cited as one of rap's legends. His
Right.
death was covered widely in media, including in magazines like Newsweek, Jet, and Vibe.
Mhm.
Um, Sylvester. Don't know who this is either, but here we go. Disco legend Sylvester James, known simply as Sylvester, was a legendary singer and songwriter from San Francisco, known for his signature song, You Make Me Feel Mighty Real.
Mhm.
Still don't know him. And for his flamboyant appearance and falsetto singing voice. Sylvester died in 1988 from AIDS related complications. Sylvester left royalties from his music to the AIDS Emergency Fund and to Rita Rocket's food program at San Francisco General Hospital's Ward 86 for people diagnosed with AIDS. The year of his death, Sylvester was working on his third studio album, knowing that he may very well never be able to release it. At the
Mhm.
time of his death, Sylvester fought to make more people realize that AIDS was very much an urgent concern for Black people in the US, which is so, so true, and I feel like it's unfortunately still is. Like, it's not talked about enough that AIDS runs rampant in the Black community. At least then, even like 10, 15 years ago. Um, quote, "It bothers me that AIDS is still thought of as a gay, white, male disease," Sylvester told the Los Angeles Times. "The Black community is at the bottom of the line when it comes to getting information, even when we've been so hard hit by this disease. I'd like to think that by going public myself with this, I can give other people courage to face it." Next person, Trinity K. Bonnet. So, Trinity K. Bonnet was a contestant on the sixth season of RuPaul's Drag Race. While a contestant on the show, she notoriously dealt with self doubt and ultimately came out as living with HIV to her fellow contestants. Trinity was diagnosed with HIV in 2012, 2 years before Drag Race's sixth season aired. Bonnet was known on the show for her fierce lip sync skills, delivering legendary performances to Shaka Khan's "I'm Every Woman" and Paula Abdul's "Vibology." In an interview, sorry, went too fast. Okay. In an interview with New Now Next, Bonnet said she spoke about her diagnosis publicly, quote, "So that I could help someone else going through the same thing. And I wanted my fans to understand that their idols aren't superheroes. You can go through what I'm going through and not be scared." Um, I'm gonna skip the next person here. Talk about I'll talk about this person here. Don't know who they are, but again, they're uh they're Black, so I'll talk about them. Arthur Ashe. So much like the last
Mhm.
person I didn't talk about, sorry. Tennis legend Arthur Ashe received HIV through a blood transfusion, kind of like we talked about with Ron White. Ashe, who was a heterosexual Black man, came out in April 1992 about his diagnosis only a few months after Magic Johnson, another Black athlete who we talked about earlier. During Ashe's coming out press conference, his wife, Jean, talked about how they discussed his diagnosis with their then 5-year-old daughter, Camera. Camera? That's an interesting name. Okay. "Arthur and I must teach her how to react to new, different, and sometimes cruel comments that have very little to do with her reality." Ash was forced to come out after a USA Today reporter called him and told him he had been tipped off about Ash's HIV status, which the only way that this person would have been tipped off was if his doctor, tips him off. Just, just sick. Anyways, I am angry that I was put in a position of having to lie if I wanted to protect my privacy. Ashe was the first Black man to win the US Open and Wimbledon titles. After his diagnosis, he created the Arthur Ashe Endowment for the Defeat of AIDS. Let's skip through a couple people here because I don't know who they are. Um, Anthony Perkins. That name sounds familiar, but let's talk about Anthony Perkins. Oh,
Mhm.
yes, yes, yes. We've talked about Anthony Perkins actually.
Right.
Um, when
I
I
don't remember that
very
that
briefly, we talked
conversation.
about
Yeah.
him in the Ed Gein episode very briefly.
Okay. I see.
Um, yeah, because he played Norman Bates, who obviously was
Mhm.
portrayed from
Mhm.
Ed Gein. Okay. So Anthony Perkins is known for playing one of film's greatest horror villains, Psycho's Norman Bates.
Mhm.
But he had a long, productive career that spanned over 4 decades. Oddly enough, Perkins only tested for HIV after reading that he was HIV positive in an article,
Mm.
oh my God, in the tabloid National Enquirer. You know what, National Enquirer? You need to go away. You need to go away because you just keep outing everybody. Um, and it's nuts that he found out while reading a magazine that he had HIV. Just nuts. His wife, because if you remember, he was married, but let's also remember he was, I don't want to say he was gay, but he was struggling with his sexuality. Um, Barry Barrison, that's his wife, said she suspected that someone who was involved in testing his blood for a different illness leaked the results to the press. Perkins and his wife stayed mum about his HIV status from his diagnosis until his death in 1992. He was scared that he would not be offered any more roles if he went public, which was what he worried about, which is why from what I understood, it's why he didn't really want to come out as
Mhm.
being gay because he
Mm.
thought he would lose his career if he did.
Right.
And then not to mention he also had a therapist who was basically trying to do trying to make him be straight. Like, you're not gay, you're straight. Like, which is so dangerous. But
Mm. Yep.
Perkins was quoted as saying that he learned more about love, selflessness, and human understanding from the people I have met in this great adventure in the world of AIDS than I ever did in the cutthroat, competitive world in which I spent my life. Let's go through. Um, who's this person? This person sounds familiar. I'll talk about this person because they're, I think, a Broadway person.
Mhm.
So, Andre DeShields. So, with 14 Broadway credits and a Tony Award to his name, DeShields is nothing short of a Broadway legend. In addition to acting and singing, he is also an accomplished choreographer and director. DeShields came out as living with HIV in an interview with The Body in 2020 after 3 decades of keeping his status private. Quote, "First of all, I love myself," the shield said. "I'm not in love with myself, but I do love myself because I've learned if I can't love me, how can I love someone else? And I trust myself, which is why my
Mm.
soul is not ready to leave because we're
Mhm.
having a good time here. We've got things to do, places to go, people to see, things to
Mhm.
achieve." I
Mhm.
kind of love him.
Huh.
Oh, I recognize him. Yes. Okay. DeShields is a highly decorated performer. Aside from the Tony, he's also garnered an Emmy, an Outer Critics Circle Award, an Obie, and there's um okay, I'll talk about this person too because he's in Brady Bunch. Robert Reed was America's dad as Mike Brady on The Brady Bunch. That made it shocking for many when they found out that the actor, who was gay, died of an AIDS-related illness in 1992. Reed had kept quiet about his diagnosis. It was the National Enquirer, here they go again, this 3 people,
Mm.
um, who outed Reed's status. Like, God, they're sick. Okay. After his death, Brady Bunch star and reality TV personality Christopher Knight called Reed as good or better a father figure than my own dad. He added, I learned very early that if that was what gay was, it has no measure in the ability of somebody to be a fine representation of a good human being.
Hmm.
Um, okay, just going through some more here. Um, mm, I guess I'll talk about this person. I don't know
Mhm.
who they are because I don't watch Rocky. So Tommy Morrison is a heavyweight boxer in Rocky V. That's five?
Hmm.
How many Rockies have there been? Four?
6 plus, Creed, so
Oh,
3, so
Creed's a
if you
part
wa
of that world too?
yeah,
Oh
Creed is part of that
god.
role. Yeah,
That's why he's in the movies.
With Michael B. Jordan.
I
I like those
know.
movies.
No, no, I know they're great movies,
Yeah.
but that explains why he's in those movies. The
Y
who's the Rocky guy? That's Sylvester Stallone? Is
Sylvester
that
Stallone, yeah,
he's the Rocky? Okay.
yeah.
Anyways, sorry, y'all. I don't like Rocky. But anyways, so he was, in that movie, he was diagnosed with HIV in 1996. But though he initially went on medication and sought counsel with other people living with HIV, Morrison eventually fell prey to AIDS denialism and began to doubt his status, which I can imagine is also not a good thing. Quote,
Hmm,
I'll trust an attorney before I trust a doctor.
hmm,
Ah, that's funny. Okay, he's got jokes. After 1 month of taking meds, he threw the rest in the garbage. Great. I will lay down and die before I take any drugs, he insisted. I
hmm,
remember talking to Magic the day I announced I had HIV, Magic Johnson. Morrison told ESPN writer Tom Friend in 1998. He was preaching, do what your doctor tells you. Well, I didn't have a doctor then, so I got down on my knees and I prayed. Every day I was like, God, what do I do? Hell, I saw myself dying. And then I started getting all these books in the mail, and they all said, don't worry about it, just live your life. So that's what I did.
hmm,
Unfortunately, Morrison did die in September of 2013. Y'all, take your meds.
hmm.
This this
Yeah,
one, this one shocks me. I did not know this, but Alvin Ailey, which I'm going to assume, Mikkel, you probably don't know who this is, but
no, I don't know who that is, nah.
he has one of the okay, we'll just talk about it. I'll just talk about it. Born in Texas in 1931, Alvin Ailey was an enormously influential choreographer who established the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958 as a testament to the Black American cultural experience. I've never seen Alvin Ailey
Hmm,
like dance school live. I've seen them perform on television and they're fantastic.
hmm,
Like just ta nothing like nothing like it. My
mhm,
mom has seen them live before, and she said, "I don't know how we left because everyone kept saying, 'Encore, encore, encore,' to the point where they had to literally say, 'Hey, guys, we're tired.'"
hmm,
'Cause, like, they are just fantastic dancers. Anyways, I did not know that Alvin
hmm.
Ailey was diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, but I'll stop talking about Alvin Ailey and how amazing he is. Let's get to this. Ailey was honored by the Kennedy Center in 1988 for his contributions to the arts. He then died a year later on December 1st, 1989, of AIDS-related complications. He was 58. Quote, his story gives people hope. It gives people perspective, not just on dance. It really touches your own life where you're looking at yourself and who you are as a human being.
Right.
Said by Troy Powell, who was artistic director of Ailey 2,
Hmm,
formerly the Alvin Ailey Repertory Ensemble. And he said this in 2019. His legacy is so profound, and ain't that the truth? Barry Jenkins, Academy Award-winning director and writer of If Beale Street Could Talk, which is a fantastic movie, by the way, highly recommend, based on James Baldwin's novel, and Moonlight, recently announced that he will helm a biopic of Ailey. I
hmm.
will definitely watch that when it comes out. But I think that was an awesome one to finish with was Alvin Ailey. But
Yes.
yeah. that is celebrity activism. That is celebrities
Mhm.
who live with the disease, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
All right. Thank you for that, Tanika. Um, yeah, we now know that there's still no cure for like HIV to this day. So like
No.
basically but there's some type of treatment that you can do to uh was it stem cell? Like, is that what's
I'm
called?
not sure exactly what it is. It could be STEM, but I'm not sure. But it's referred to as PrEP, which is the short form of the name, which
Mhm.
would basically, I don't know how that works with AIDS. I'm
Mhm.
going to say that that's a different medication if there is
Yeah.
medication for
Yeah.
AIDS, but for people who have HIV, that is what you will use to, well, as a PrEP is maybe it's not PrEP. PrEP is
Yeah. Yeah.
for, no, I might be wrong. PrEP
So
is maybe not for if you have
yeah.
HIV. There is other medications that
Yeah.
are there, though, for people who are HIV positive to be undetectable. But then there's also PrEP, I think, is actually for when to protect yourself from even getting it in the first place. Um, so, you know, if you're obviously choosing
Mhm.
to not use have safe sex, but like
Mhm.
whatever. So that's what is there for you to have that as an option.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously, where you can, if you
Mhm.
can't afford that medication, depending on where you are, I'm not sure if that's
Mhm.
something that's covered
Mhm.
here in Canada
Mhm.
under like OHIP or a drug plan or anything like
Mhm.
that. I'm not sure how it works here. But
Right.
if that is something that you can't get access to, um, condoms are the best thing to
Mhm.
stay safe, which I get it. Condoms suck, but like, um, it's about safety and making
Yeah.
sure that you're
Yeah.
not contracting something
Mhm.
that's viral. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's another solution as well. Like, yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, just how yeah, there's no currently no cure for it, but however,
no.
there's a tiny handful of individual fewer than it doesn't worldwide have been cured of the virus through complex and high risky stem cells
Okay.
uh transplant, primarily performed to treat life threatened blood cancers and
Mm,
leukemia according to science.org, basically.
okay.
So, wait,
Okay.
so there's more while global everyday cure does not yet exist. Modern medicine has transformed HIV into highly manageable chronic conditions.
Mm.
So, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you
from
can
the,
essentially, if you
yeah.
get it, like live um a normal life,
Mm-hmm,
which is great because it's like we see with the quickness of which we were able to figure something out when it came to COVID and the pandemic, but
uh-huh,
this was, as we call it, was an epidemic, and um, people were losing their lives, and nothing was being done to stop it. And I know, obviously, 40, 50 years ago is very different than the technology we have today, but it's just like, why couldn't it have been that quick to stop people from losing their lives back then? Um, because like, look what's available now, and why couldn't that not have been available? If not when this first started, I get it, but sometime in the mid to late 80s, I'll even give you the early 90s. Like, why wasn't something available for people so that they didn't have to lose their lives and
mhm,
potentially could have, you know, lived a normal life with the disease? And um, yeah,
yeah,
we talk about the celebrities, but imagine just the
uh-huh,
normal,
yeah,
everyday
human,
person
yeah,
who
human, yeah.
who
people.
lost their lives to this
Yep.
disease.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Okay.
that's a wrap on the
That's it.
first
Yep.
episode
Yep. That's a wrap.
for
Um.
Pride. We'll be back Thursday
Mm-hmm.
with another one.
All right.
All right.
Okay. That's it, guys. All right.
Cool.
Peace.
Bye. And I'm coming in with a quick little news article here. As promised, we're going to stick to Pride related news on any of the episodes really coming, except bonus screen take will be, as we've mentioned, regular formatting. But this is Pride related. This is more in Toronto. So here we go. Um, the party won't stop for Pride Toronto this year, but money problems could put future events in jeopardy, organizers warn. As the festival gears up for its 45th anniversary, its executive director, Kojo Modest, says the organization is once again facing a funding shortfall of $700,000 to $800,000, which could cause serious issues for next year's festivities. Quote, unfortunately, we're finding ourselves in a very similar situation this year. Maras told City News, which I believe they did talk about this last year as well. We have had almost all of our sponsors returning. However, we have had many sponsors as a result of tariffs and other reasons had to reduce the amount that they're giving to us. In March, representatives of Pride festivals across Canada came together to request an additional $9 million cash injection from the federal government to cover performing artists' fees, logistic costs, and rising budget items over the next 3 years. That request is separate from a $1.5 million the federal government has already allocated for security costs, which groups have previously said is not enough to deal with an onslaught of violent threats they tie to far-right extremists. Leaders from across the country argue pride parades and other programming at festivals celebrating LGBTQ plus people help to promote inclusion and boost tourism revenues. Organizers for Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver festivals say together they generate $1.3 billion in economic activity each year, and they estimate smaller festivals create $700 million in GDP. Quote, there are some things that we cannot compromise, Modest added, and the costs of these things are going up. The cost of security, the cost of insurance, the cost of, stage rentals, and all of these things have significantly increased after the pandemic. Last year, Pride Toronto faced a similar $900,000 funding shortfall after major sponsors like Google and Home Depot pulled their support amid a wider backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So that is that article. And that is it for this episode. We'll be back on Thursday, as mentioned, with another one. But we'll see you then. Bye, everybody. If you liked what you heard with our podcast, you can head on over to our website, which is solo.to/next take podcast. There you can get any of the links to any of our social media, which is Facebook, Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Next Take Pod. You can also find links to our Reddit page and many other things, I'm sure. Can't remember all the top of my head. You can also email us at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. There you can send us any inquiries that you have, any questions, or also any episode ideas. And if you do have episode ideas, just make sure you put in the subject line episode ideas, and we'll add it to our list. If you also liked us, you can like us, rate us, follow us on any of your favorite podcast apps. You can rate us, however, on Spotify and Apple Podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. And we'll also move forward and share or spot a light on those who give us 5-star ratings in the future. That is it for us. We'll see you next time for the episode.